Sean. Welcome to my home and to my channel where In Between lives. In April 2020, I entered the final year of my 40s. I've been a paper pusher for a national bureaucracy for the last 20 years or so. It's paid the bills and provided health insurance for my family, but really has not been very effective sustenance for the soul. Pushing 50 amidst a worldwide health crisis, paired with a world full of anger, where people are seemingly content to talk at instead of to each other, left me wondering what I could do to bring greater meaning to my existence. It's hard to be motivated right now for any cause in which you may believe, because advocacy seems limited to being totally for or totally against an issue, and you can expect to engage the other side and not necessarily engage with the other side. More than ever, I find myself asking, if two extremes have staked positions so immovable that nobody bothers to listen amidst all the shouting, when those who are really impacted cry out, does it make a sound? I was pondering these issues, and then Bev came back into my life. Bev and I had worked youth crisis services together 20 years earlier. She and my wife Sue had been pregnant at about the same time. I was only responsible for one of them. I think I was responsible for one of them. Yes, I was definitely responsible for one of them. At any rate. I knew Bev had Grayson, but I kind of lost track of her after that. And then this was posted on Facebook.
What do you do while heading to Portland for this guy's first step into transitioning procedure? Sing show tunes, of course. Grayson's been working on this song this summer with Alex Brightman and Broadway Artists Alliance. The song is I Won't Let You Down from Tootsie. Positive thoughts and prayers for Grayson on this amazing day. Thank you, friends and family and neighbors that have become our family. Much love.
Now, I didn't know diddly about transgender issues, so here is my chance to return to the last work environment in which I was truly happy. A place where I got to meet unique and interesting people with diverse talents, where I could learn new things just for the sake of learning them, and where I could try to find creative and meaningful ways to share the information I had learned. It was back when I had worked and studied at Bowdoin College. In anticipation of the upcoming release of our first documentary, The Story of Grayson, a 19-year-old transgender male, I just put together a series of shorts to introduce basic terminology and identify common beliefs about transgender individuals. And while there is nothing remotely comical about the struggles transgender individuals face in our society, I have allowed a few of the characters running around in my head to escape, to add some variety and levity. We've got the professor here, who's going to talk with us about scientific issues. We've got Doc, who will discuss psychological and psychiatric topics. And I'm here to... and there may be a few others... Oh, all right. We've got the Truth Fairy here to help confirm or refute common beliefs about being transgender.
Including yours.
Yes, including mine. I'll be more than happy to practice what I preach and admit where I had misunderstandings or was outright wrong about things I believed. It's okay not to know as long as you're willing to look before you see.
You had some doozies.
I know.
Like when you asked Grayson if he and his mother now argue about the toilet seat being left up.
I was just trying to be...
No, you weren't. How about when you asked Grayson about his junk?
That's not how that went.
Oh, and how about when Grayson left you absolutely speechless? Nobody's ever been able to pull that one off.
Professor, why don't you get us started with some basic terminology so that we're sure that we all start on the same page?
Do you think anyone knows you're not wearing any pants?
Will you please be quiet?
Hey, only speaking the truth.
Go ahead, Professor.
Very well. So, there are many terms related to gender identity and sexuality.
We will start small and add to our definitions as we go. Let's start with sex. Seriously? Seriously? You are so immature.
Sorry, Professor.
I'm amazed that they let you out without adult supervision. What a Dummkopf. We need to talk about sex assigned at birth, and then look at gender-related terminology. You may think, what do you mean, Professor? People are not assigned sex. They just are. People can get very angry and emotional and say, there are only two sexes. Girl and boy. Other people can get equally emotional and say sex is not a dichotomy, but rather a continuum, with perhaps male on one end and female on the other. Even medical professionals tend to disagree. So, who is right? Well, consider this. We have genetically defined sex in terms of chromosomes. Boys possess an XY pairing, while girls have an XX pairing. Sex can also be defined by gonads. Boys have testes that produce sperm, and girls have ovaries that produce eggs. Gonads are also endocrine glands and produce specific hormones unique to which type they are. Testes produce testosterone, while ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone. Sex is most often assigned at birth, or even prenatally, based on a penis leading a doctor to proclaim, "It's a boy!" If there is a vagina, vulva, clitoris, uterus, but no penis, the doctor says, "Woohoo! It's a girl!" Aha, you may say. See, there are only two sexes. Boys have XY chromosomes, testes, and a penis, and girls have XX chromosomes, ovaries, and a uterus, clitoris, vulva, vagina, etc. Well, ponder this if you would. It is an oversimplification because Jean here does not have a very long attention span. Lights, please. Thank you. So, we have a man with XY sex chromosomes and a woman with XX sex chromosomes. The woman's egg and a man's sperm carry only one sex chromosome each. As the woman is XX herself, she can only contribute an X chromosome. The man, however, is XY, and his sperm can carry either an X or a Y chromosome. If the sperm with the X chromosome fertilizes the egg, a genetically XX female embryo develops. If the Y sperm fertilizes the egg, the embryo is XY, genetically a male. What is very interesting is that until 6 or 7 weeks development, the sex characteristics of an XX embryo are indistinguishable from those of the XY embryo. The genetically distinct embryos both have Mullerian ducts, which develop into female structures of the uterus, fallopian tubes, and upper third of the vagina, as well as Wolffian ducts, which develop into the seminal vesicles and vas deferens in a male. Even the gonads at this stage can develop into ovaries or testes. What happens after that is controlled primarily by a gene on the Y chromosome called the SRY gene. The SRY gene sets off a complicated series of events leading to the testes being formed and testosterone and Mullerian inhibiting hormone, MIH, being produced. The testosterone facilitates further development of the Wolffian ducts, and the Mullerian inhibiting hormone suppresses development of the Mullerian ducts, and they wither away and die. In contrast, in the XX embryo, there is no SRY gene. Therefore, no testes develop and no male hormones are produced and released. So, the Wolffian ducts die. The gonads are allowed to develop into ovaries, and with no Mullerian inhibiting hormone, Mullerian ducts develop into the uterus, fallopian tubes, and upper third of the vagina. To recap, despite being genetically different, the XX embryo and the XY embryo both start with bipotential gonads, gonads that can turn into ovaries or testes. They also both possess female structures and male structures that can later develop into female or male sex characteristics. If the male hormones are not present in the correct amount at the correct time, the baby will ultimately develop anatomically as a girl. If the SRY gene is present, the testes develop, male hormones are released, and ultimately the baby develops anatomically as a boy. But what happens if the SRY gene is present on the X chromosome? That's right! The SRY gene cascade occurs. The bipotential gonads become testes, testosterone and MIH are produced, and a boy develops, a circumstance termed de la Chapelle syndrome. XX males are shorter and weigh less than XY males, may have genital ambiguities, usually have small testes, and are universally sterile. When people speak of only two sexes, do they mean genetic sex or gonadal sex? One is not always consistent with the other. Oh boy, Sean is daydreaming again. Will you pay attention? Well, at least that is helpful. So, let us consider normal gonadal development induced by the SRY gene in a genetically XY embryo. Scientists have known since the 1940s that removing the testosterone and MIH producing testes at the right time results in development of a female. Because there can be natural or anomalous variations in androgen sensitivity of the developing embryo, there can be variation in sexual development. Genetically XY males with mild androgen insensitivity may develop breasts or have structural deformities such as having their urethra exit somewhere other than the tip of their penis. Some genetically XY developing embryos and fetuses have partial or moderate androgen insensitivity. Doctors may have great difficulty assigning sex at birth because of the baby having ambiguous genitalia such as a micropenis or a macroclitoris. A genetically XY male with complete androgen insensitivity will likely be assigned as a female at birth and raised as a female. Such a genetic male will have a vagina, clitoris, and breasts which are capable of breastfeeding, but no ovaries or uterus. There are only two sexes, period, may indeed apply, But you now would need to specify, do you mean genetic sex, or gonadal sex, or anatomical sex? The three types do not always match. As one final example, let us consider Zweier's syndrome. In Zweier's syndrome, a person is genetically a male, as defined by having an XY chromosome pairing, yet they develop a vagina, fallopian tubes, and a uterus. But instead of ovaries, testes are present. Unlike androgen insensitivity, people with Zweier syndrome have a functioning uterus and thus could become pregnant through implantation of a fertilized egg and then carry and deliver a baby. People with Zweier syndrome are usually raised as girls, often given estrogen at puberty and beyond to induce menstruation and uterine growth, as well as breast development. These are three examples of what are presently termed intersex conditions. There are many others. So, are there only two sexes, male and female? It depends on the question you are asking. Is it true that most males, anatomically defined as people with penises, have XY chromosomes and an SRY gene present? Yes, by far. Does that make it fruitless to consider biological sex as a spectrum? Again, it depends on the question. The androgen insensitivity data suggests that hormone levels or receptiveness to certain hormones can impact sexual development in more than an all or none fashion. Such a conceptualization is useful in studying what appears to be an increase in atypical sexual development tied to certain environmental events, such as exposure to certain chemicals. Before we turn to gender, I wanted to encourage people to check out the TED Talks linked below that are associated with being intersex. I found the presenters to be very well spoken and lovely people. Their stories really help highlight that very real people are impacted in deeply personal ways by the topics we are all sometimes too cavalier about arguing in the abstract.
Sean's daydreaming again, eh? Well, come on, Professor. We're gonna wake him up.
Well done, Professor.
All right, it is my turn now.
Doc?
Clearly unusual traumatic events in infancy and childhood cause transgender...
Doc?
Don't interrupt. You see, the conflict between the
Doc!
and the... No Oedipus? No wandering womb? No need to talk about cigars, choo-choos, and tunnels?
I'm afraid not.
Well, why am I even here then?
Oh, come on. Don't be such a sore loser. Why don't we take a break for today and then come back and you can give your lecture on why some people think that there are more than two genders.
Oh, there's a fire truck in that one.
I know. It'll be really cool. Okay. At any rate, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Where In Between Lives.